Hi, guys, and welcome to Trucking Along with Kiersey. That's me, your positive voice in trucking. And even when you're trying to be positive, sometimes a little bad stuff happens. And, this is one of those things where being a company driver sometimes pays versus being an owner op or lease op where you have to pay for the repairs yourself. I just had a situation with the windshield. I'm doing a video about that. I got these cameras with the geotab, the Netrodyne camera and the geotab. I'm pretty sure it was June 1st or June 2nd. So I took like a 34-hour reset there. And when I started the truck to leave out for my load, the coolant sensor light came on and the truck didn't want to turn over. And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I was parked in front of my apartment complex. So I turned off the floor switch for a little bit, turned it back on, get it over to the inspection bay because the inspection bay at Prime is free. They have an assessment bay. Okay. So it's a courtesy inspection basically, and they'll diagnose it and, you know, give you a choice of what to fix, what not to fix, that kind of thing. So I took it over there and the guy says, oh, you have a problem with your coolant sensor. And he showed it to me. He's like, it's totally corroded. It hasn't been replaced since such and such date. So I'm just going to do it. I'm like, okay. So he goes and does that. And then the truck is fine. I roll out. Now, I was out for a month and then I came home for home time. So this is the first time the truck was parked for an extended amount of period, an extended amount of time since I had the camera and the geotab. So I normally take a week off and I will go out to the truck every day and I start the truck, make sure everything's good. I let it run for a little while just to get, make sure nothing's wrong with it. Make sure nothing's dying, and weather does all kinds of crazy things to trucks. And so, I didn't have any problems with the inverter. If the batteries aren't getting enough juice from the APU, the inverter will beep. So if there was a problem, the inverter should have been beeping. It didn't. So I'm about to leave out. I load up my truck, the refrigerator, the day before. And, you know, in the morning, I go to start the truck to leave out because I had a load and truck won't start. Completely dead. The key, like nothing even turned on. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And at this point, yes, the inverter is beeping. And I'm like, man, this sucks. Like, how did this happen? So, and I park with the floor switch off and the APU on, and it just didn't make any sense to me. I've always done this with my trucks. So, because I wasn't parked on prime property, they wouldn't just come and do a jump start. So, they have this little jumper pack and they don't sell them at the terminal, which I kind of think is wrong. They should sell them at the terminal because I kind of think that every truck should have usually, like with us, we have reefers. We can jump the truck from the reefer if something happened out on the road and vice versa. Now, if you're flatbed or tanker, you're not going to be able to do that. So I actually live close by to an auto parts store. So I called them up and I asked them, do you have a jump starter that'll be good enough for a tractor? And the guy says, oh, yeah, we get prime drivers all the time. They all buy our thing. And I said, okay. So I walked down there and it didn't say anything on the box about the size of engine that it would jump. Well, I have a 12-liter. Okay. So I go back to the truck. I tried to jump it. It wouldn't work. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And here, when I opened up the box and went through the paperwork, it says, no, it only does an 8-liter. I'm like, well, okay, there's $200. So took that back and had to get towed. Now, this is where company driver, I don't pay anything. If this would have happened out on the road, I would have gotten paid breakdown pay $175 a day and, a free hotel room and the Uber back and forth to get the truck. So now I'm on a mini fleet. And if you own the truck or you're leasing the truck, you're responsible for that tow. So the tow came out to be $175 or something, I think. And they take the truck. Now, this was July 2nd. So they couldn't work. They didn't get a chance to work on the truck at that point. So July 3rd, the guy says to me in the afternoon, yeah, we think it's the batteries, but we're not sure. We're still charging the truck. Okay. So it took them like 3 hours to charge the batteries. And then they said it's not the batteries. And I was like, well, Prime said that there's a recall on the battery cables. Did you check that? And they said, no, your recall was already done. It's not the battery cables. Okay, so what's doing it? They're like, we don't know. Your APU is fine. Your inverter's fine. Everything's working fine. There's no codes on the truck. Your batteries are just really, really dead. Doesn't make sense. So remember, I already lost food from the refrigerator, like $100 worth of food. So now I go back to Walmart. I buy another $100 worth of food, of eggs and, lunch meats and milk and all that stuff, right? I go pick up my load and I drove my whole 10-hour shift. And when I go to park, my refrigerator's warm. The freezer was cold, but the refrigerator was warm. And I'm like, what the heck? Right. So I was aggravated because now I lost another $100 worth of food, and that's a bunch of crap. So I was just aggravated and exhausted, and I said, the hell with it, I'm going to sleep. So I plug in my CPAP machine, and it says inappropriate power supply. I've never had that, not in 7 years. I've never seen that. So now my refrigerator's not working right, and my CPAP's not working right. And I'm like, okay, so it must be the inverter. And I thought, all right, now I know what the problem is. And I turned off, and it might sound weird, but I turned off the floor switch for like 15 minutes and then I turned it back on. And I was thinking that maybe the guys working on it or whatever, if they didn't like stop the flow of juice or something to the inverter, maybe that made a difference. I don't know. But in the morning, I start driving and I stopped off at a Walmart and I threw out food, but I said, well, I might as well just go see if I could just buy stuff that I don't need to refrigerate. And I stopped and I grabbed the water bottle out of the fridge, and now all of a sudden the fridge was working again. And in my head, I was like, well, when I shut off the floor switch, it just redid the circuitry. So I plugged the CPAP in, and the CPAP was working. And I'm like, okay, this is like really weird, right? So I said, all right, I'm just going to put water bottles in the refrigerator, see what, if it's going to stay cold or not. So then after that, the refrigerator's fine. But that day, I'm driving down US 283 in the middle of Kansas, which is a one-way road in each direction, like one way in each direction. And it's got a very, very small shoulder, like 3 or 4 inches from the white line. So there's no place to stop or pull over. And all of a sudden, all my lights came on. My check engine light came on. My red light came on. It started flashing coolant, low coolant. And then it gave me an engine protected shut off in 60 seconds. But my water temperatures were fine. There was no smoke or like you expect when something's overheating, like you see in the movies. And so I thought, well, okay, this is weird because the coolant sensor was replaced a month ago. I haven't had any problems with it. I just did a pre-trip a few hours ago when I start driving that day, so I didn't see anything wrong. I found the only place on that road to be able to pull over because there's no place to pull over. And I was able to check it out and stop the truck and no leaks, no bulges, no cuts, nothing. Don't see anything wrong. I message Road Assist and I tell them, hey, this issue's happening. And they're like, did you check the coolant? Yeah, I checked the coolant. And when I told you that there were no leaks on the ground and the clamps were all fine and there was nothing busting and nothing steaming and you should have realized that I was smart enough to check the coolant. But anyway, so I get rolling again. And then as I'm driving, the alarm, the burglar alarm starts flashing. Beep, beep. Beep. So while I'm driving. So I punch in the key code and it's fine and I keep going. And so these are one of those situations where I had to decide, did I want to keep going in the dark on a road that had no shoulder and it was pouring down rain? Do I want to stop and wait till the next day? So I stopped, I did the floor switch thing again. I know it sounds stupid, but in my head, this was an electrical thing. And I figured, well, if you just keep interrupting whatever's doing it, maybe it'll reset itself or something. So I got from Kansas all the way down to El Paso and didn't have a problem. And I'm on my way from El Paso to Atlanta, and the keypad thing went a couple other times. So then I'm thinking, okay, maybe the burglar alarm is shorting out the system somehow, and that wire or whatever put some kind of a drain on the batteries, and that's what caused it. So I get to Atlanta, and all the lights start coming on, check engine lights coming on. I mean, like the red check engine lights coming on, and I'm in the middle of Atlanta, and it starts beeping and beeping and beeping again. So I had messaged. At this point, I'm thinking, you know what? None of this stuff happened until they put the cameras in. So I emailed my truck owners as well as Brianne, the head of the IT department, and she explained to me that there was a problem with not getting enough power to the geotab when they first started. But she said they rectified that situation. So there wasn't any kind of an issue with that, but it wasn't causing any problems with the truck's batteries or power or anything. Well, I wound up getting routed in there. There was a cable that used to be used and they don't use it anymore. So the installer removed that cable, and he said that he didn't think that was the problem, but he'll remove it anyway. And what it was what Brienne had been talking about was the geotab needed a certain amount of power. And let's just say it was 6 volts. The cable that Netrogyne told them to use was 5 volts. So therefore, the geotab wouldn't start up properly and would lose power and wouldn't charge. That shouldn't have anything to do with the batteries of the truck. But he removed the cable anyway. And in the meantime, they're now using this brick-like junction box. Okay, fine. I got pictures of that, so I'll show them to you. But so then they checked out the battery cables. They checked out the way it was all connected. They tightened all the wires, removed and tightened all the wires. They checked out the APU. They checked out the APU cables, and they tried to tell me that there were cables between the APU and the inverter that they didn't like the look of, and they decided to replace them. And I said, well, okay, so what is it that you think fixed this? What did you do that you think fixed this? And it turned into, well, we just fixed it all so that you don't have to keep coming back, but we think we got it. So if you have these cameras, which you will be getting soon, because now they're doing them as if, we're all going to have them by the end of the year. Okay. If you have these cameras and you're seeing anything strange with your truck electrically, make sure you have it checked out. you know, Consider whether or not it's the cameras. They are new and all the trucks are completely different. So, I have a 21, a 24 might have different circuitry or different, lights, sensors, whatever that may be affecting it. And, a very small portion of our fleet at this point has these cameras, but pretty soon the entire fleet's going to have them. Dennis Davis had announced at the last safety meeting that we will be getting them by the end of this year. And one of the reasons has to do with Navgo and any tracks are separating. We are testing Copilot. There's some things I like about it, there's some things I don't, but I figured I'd let you know about the electrical system and the issues that I've had. And that was a week ago. So I haven't had any problems since. So comment down below. Let me know. Have you seen any kind of issues with the cameras and your electrical stuff? Any kind of sensors or whatever. And was it fixed or are you still dealing with it? Thank you guys so much. I hope to see you out here. Trucking along. Bye.